and welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable. I'm your host, Zoe Vanderplu, and I'd like to thank our sponsor, OpenSide. Visit openside.com for products and services that will take your Airtable to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir, one word, all caps, for a one-time $20 credit off of any purchase. This episode, I have the pleasure of chatting with Natasha Vorompiova from Belgium. She is a capacity architect and founder of SystemsRock. At SystemsRock, she helps her clients break through their capacity ceiling when they've reached the limits of their own homegrown systems. We talk about how she helps businesses navigate through growth and organizational bottlenecks by simplifying their tech stack, optimizing workflows, and focusing on metrics. This empowers her clients to make informed business decisions using data instead of just hunches. Naturally, one of Natasha's chosen tools to incorporate into workflows and automations is Airtable. The demo base she shows us is an example of a metrics dashboard for membership site owners, which can be appropriated for any kind of subscription-based business. Her base allows a team to track and glean insights from their members' activity, testimonials, feedback, and more. Check out BuiltOnAir.com for more Built On Air episodes, and while you're at it, sign up for our mailing list to get weekly updates on all things Airtable. Hey, Natasha, thank you so much for taking the time with us to chat on Built On Air. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much, Zoe. It's a pleasure. I'm so excited to speak with you.
Me too. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You're one of our few international guests so far on the show from Belgium. So I guess just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got into Airtable.
Sure. I own a company called SystemsRock. So we live and breathe systems. But specifically what we do is we help our clients break through a capacity ceiling. A capacity ceiling that happens when we get bogged down by so much back-end work that we run out of space to grow. And in my experience, it happens a lot when we run our business. We come across some challenges, we create a system around it or a way to deal with it, and then we move forward. But when we do it many times, we end up with these little islands of systems that don't talk to each other. A lot of times it also involves information stored in lots of different places across many different devices and platforms and tools. So it makes things very, very difficult. It makes access to information super difficult. It makes running the business very complex just because, especially when other people are involved and they need access to information, there is so much unnecessary work that has to happen. So what my team and I do is we come in, we look at those things that could be improved and streamlined, and we a lot of times rebuild the back end. It does sound like this massive task, but a lot of times it starts with something super small and super simple. It can be simply Zapier that moves information from one place to the next and removes that bottleneck. But once we come in and relieve that pressure, things that just start flowing so much more naturally and freely, and then it's relief for the team as well, because all of a sudden they don't need to check in with each other where they don't need to be, and things just flow much smoother. So that's why it's something very, very natural that happens in every business, and we are the ones who just come and save the day when things get very unbearable.
Right. Yeah. You get in the trenches and figure it out. Right. I guess the sort of like a plumber for growing businesses.
Yes. Or a lifeguard.
Yeah. I like that even better. So tell me, these businesses that you work for, certainly kind of establish a bit of a process, but do you notice any patterns, where when businesses come to you, are they typically at a certain size, or like, are there other characteristics when, bottlenecks really start to happen once, they reach a certain level?
Yeah, it starts happening a lot, or rather businesses start looking for solutions when they begin adding team members. A lot of times it's somewhere at the like number three. For some reason is the one that is very, very critical. So a lot of times it's like 3 and then 9, and then it goes. For some reason, like every time we triple the number of team members, systems start breaking down. And it's like I'm not the one who came up with this. Like I read it, but I noticed it as well. It's a lot of times the company is doing very well, and at some point this extra team member all of a sudden means that things need to be redone on the back end so that information continues to flow smoother. So it's a number of team members. Sometimes it's a revenue number, and a lot of times it's just that the information threshold. Whenever a business reaches the point where we just need something where we can actually see the data, compare the data, look for trends, instead of just building everything on guesses and hunches, which happens a lot. Like a lot of times, so much data gets buried, and we don't have easy access to it. So for different companies, it happens at different times. But a lot of our clients, we work specifically with agencies, because in agencies, information is kind of very flat. There are account managers or account reps that work with clients, and they do similar work. But then it is very difficult for the business owner or the founder who is managing the agency to keep track of all these different pieces, because it's not even in one place. It's
Right.
different computers, different places. People work differently, so it just the complexity of managing such a team is much higher.
Right. Yeah. And when you realize, you're like, hey, well, it takes me an hour to combine this data and then only 5 minutes to look at it and get what I want, that's when you're like, oh, wow, I really need to get better at keeping track of this in one place.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what kind of, apps or software systems do you typically recommend to clients to kind of help consolidate all of those data sources?
For the most part, Airtable. That's why we love Airtable so much, because it allows us to combine different types of data in one single place, and it plays so well with other tools that it's so easy to move information into Airtable, and a lot of times automate moving it into Airtable. Plus, as our viewers know, because the data is relational, it's like you enter it in one place, it populates the rest of the places. So it's just it saves massive amounts of time.
Right. Yeah. And it's also really cool, I think, to be able to blow people's mind with that. You're like, watch this. I'm going to put this person's name in this table, and then watch it shows up over here. You don't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's fun to kind of feel a little bit like a wizard, and then you're like, wait, but that's not even the coolest thing I can do. Just wait. So you mentioned how you use Zapier a lot, which we talked about Zapier a lot here on the show. Kind of an API automation builder tool, requires no coding or almost no coding to execute. So what kind of do you typically take the software that your clients are currently using and just use Zapier to get it into Airtable, or do you have a sort of recommended set of other apps that they switch to, or does it vary so much case by case?
Well, the approach that we take, and personally, I'm a strong believer in tool minimalism. Like I really, really don't like situations where someone is using one single tool to do one single thing. It's when we come in, we look at the backend setup and we look at the tools that the client is using and where things can be simplified, where we can make one tool do different things versus having like several tools do just one thing. And we always look at how they use each tool and what they use it for, what they've used before, what their experience have been with other tools. Because a lot of times business owner has this history of like using certain tools and like not liking them. So that's perfectly fine with us. We do tailor the setup to the needs of the business and to the business owners and the team's preferences. So usually we do not really move them to different tools, but what happens is that a lot of times when we bring in Airtable as this hub of information, then number of tools we don't really need to use. A lot of times, for example, forms, or it can be something else that was used kind of just like this extra tool that is not needed anymore. So those tools kind of get removed, but then we use Zapier to connect, say, Airtable to the payment processor or to set up Zap so that the emails get moved directly into Airtable. So it's, for the most part, it's just getting rid of some tools and connecting the rest of the tools to Airtable.
Cool. And how long have you been kind of doing this kind of work? And was it something you always wanted to do, or did you kind of, happen upon it? And, I feel like a lot of people in this field, they're, it's always kind of this like, it hasn't really been around for, all that long, this sort of like, Airtable, Zapier, like, kind of low code or no code thing. So I'm just really curious to hear what your personal path to SystemsRock was.
Well, the path to SystemsRock was a bit windy. First of all, I didn't expect to be a business owner at all. It was when my son was born and I was like, we had just moved to Belgium actually, and I was looking for a job and not finding one super easily, or like there were some options, but they meant a long commute, and I was just like, this is not something that I want to do. So I was quite unexpectedly introduced to this whole world of online business by a friend of mine. And I'm just like, okay, let me try this. And actually in the beginning, I was going to offer marketing services because my background is in marketing. But then after a few weeks of like not getting anywhere with this like long list of things that I needed to do, because I was like new to business, new to online business, newborn, learning a new language, like household, like there were so many things. I was just like, I have no idea how to do this. And I've always been so good at project management. Like in the office, I was very productive. I'm just like, what is happening? So I started listening to the interviews of some established business owners, and like I kept this word systems, like as this kind of just like remedy to everything. And I'm just like, okay, it's good for you to say you have a big business, you have a big team, like maybe you have a production line somewhere. so like it's conveyor belts and everything. Like I'm like one person here. Like what do I do with systems? And then one day I was listening to an interview with Laura Roeder, who referred to systems as this kind of like checklist and like kind of like simple like step-by-step procedures. And that's when it clicked for me. And I'm just like, oh wow. So like I, as a small business owner, like one person show can actually have systems if I simply have this step-by-step for something that I do regularly. And that's when I started digging into this like whole systems thing. And like as I started playing with it, I realized that like this is actually the path to sanity. So it came relatively naturally to me just because I'm a super organized person. Like I'm that boring person who has her closets color coded and organized by like super kind of like structured. So, and then when I started doing that, and I started sharing it with like some friends that I had in this online world, and it started kind of like working for them. I'm just like, okay, SystemsRock, like that's my business. Ta-da! Yeah, so that was one of those relations that ended up being a business, and that was now 7 years ago. So it's been quite a while. But back then, I was basically helping clients with like structuring their work better and creating these step-by-step processes. I did start using Zapier about maybe 3 years ago, but like super kind of just not very regularly, like in my clients' businesses. That was something that like I would experiment with myself. But then about a year ago, a client that we worked with previously came to us with a new challenge, and we needed to find a solution for them. And the problem that they had was that they are a company that works with writers. What they do is they have a team of coaches that work with writers to help them through the process of writing their books. But the challenge that they had was that they would spend way too much time trying to match writers and coaches, because that was a totally manual process. Like there were several spreadsheets involved, plus the team member who was doing all this matching, a lot of information about preferences and availability was in her head, but then like she would have to double check, because again, like data lived in several places, and in some place it was updated, in another it wasn't. Then like other team members had some extra information, so it was just like really long and painful process, like several hours over one or even couple of weeks to just like figure out how they can find the right match for this new writer who just applied and wants to work with them. Mm-hmm. And what was really bothering them is like, one was that it was super difficult on the back end, and they couldn't really see how they can increase their capacity, like working with more writers. But then it was just such a not very good impression that they were giving these like new clients that would come in and be so excited about writing their book, but then okay, you have to now wait until we find the right coach for you. So as we started poking around for the right tool, we stumbled upon Airtable, and I'm just like, okay, like this thing like should actually do the work. And then that was the first project that we did, and it just, for one, it revolutionized the business of our client, because all of a sudden they went through this several hours over the course of a week to just 2 minutes, kind of just like, okay. I mean, it would take a bit longer, maybe half an hour, just because there was communication involved, but it became just so very easy, because we built for them this table for coaches with all their characteristics, and there were like 10 different characteristics, like from the genre that they coach in, to their personal preferences, to specific topics, to availability, to their time zone. Like there were like so many different things. But then a separate like list was a list of writers and their application form, and like their requirements, also their genre, their time zone, and everything. And when we put it into Airtable, we created this matching view, when all of a sudden, like, with this just like one click of a button, all of a sudden Airtable spits out this just like 1-2 people who are like the best match for this person, given the criteria that they've put in their application form. Like that was really magic. That was just like so amazing. So for the client, it was absolutely incredible. But for me personally, I was like in love with this new tool that can do so much. And I was just like, oh my God, give me more, give me more projects to play with, because I realized that it's not just like this scenario, like there is like so much that we can explore with this tool, and like, we never look back. We work now with many different businesses and industries from so this was a coaching business, and we worked with a PR agency. We worked with an online course creator to improve the experience of the students. Something that we will talk about more today is a dashboard for the membership site owners. There was a personal stylist that we worked with as well. So like the range of projects is quite wide, but what we love doing is kind of like optimizing the workflow of like how things actually happen, but also creating these like, different KPI and metrics dashboards so that you can see all the numbers at a glance, so that you don't need to kind of just like, dig up like all this like random information, but by the time you find it, like you don't have time to find the rest to compare it to what you just found. So Airtable makes things so much easier.
Right. Yeah. I think that thing you mentioned earlier in the interview, where it's, when businesses are small, you can make decisions on hunches. And then, when you grow a little bit, you're like, wow, like, this really isn't going to suit me anymore. Especially as you grow and you have so many, other people where it's like everyone's hunch is different, which is the right hunch. It's like that data, right? Just having that data helps so much. And yeah, you're totally right, where it's, if it takes you, 30 minutes to combine everything together, in the case of the writers, weeks, right? Because you don't even know where to start. It makes you move just so much more slowly. So, and I guess now you mentioned the kind of dashboard, right? That you're going to show us. So now I think would be a great time to kind of segue into that, and you can give us a little bit of a demo of one of your Airtable creations. So,
sure. So
go ahead and share your screen. Yeah, take a minute to get set up.
All right. So this is totally made up setup, though the names might look familiar. So this is built for an owner of a membership site. So if our audience is familiar with the membership site business model, this is where you have a large group of people that come in, and you share with them some type of content. Different membership sites approach it differently. So some membership sites can create a regular monthly content. Some of them might focus on community. So there are different aspects, but there are naturally a number of important metrics, numbers, and data that is important to track. And overall, membership site business model is very appealing, because this is one of those predictable business models where normally, like as you grow your membership site, you have super predictable revenue that comes in every month, because your members get charged every month, so you can easily predict your revenue. So it's super appealing. However, there is a bunch of things that any membership site owner needs to track, and a lot of times they do not really track these numbers, because one, they're very busy, and two, it's easier to concentrate on just growing your membership community and creating content, and the rest can falls by the wayside.
Right.
Having all these numbers in one place allows you to kind of have this at a glance view at where things are, without having to check 5 different places. So this Airtable, as you can see, I have a number of different tables over here. But before we talk about dashboard, let's quickly take our viewers to the intake form, because usually this is the place where any new member would start. As I mentioned earlier, super briefly, using Airtable forms is very good, because once somebody fills out the form, the information gets fed directly into Airtable. So here we get to select the questions that we want to ask these new members. And here is just like this kind of like part of the process, the intake process, where it's just the list of the members, new members, and answers to their questions. So when they joined and stuff like that. But the beauty is having this one single dashboard that captures all of this data and all of the numbers in one single table. So what I have here, for example, is the name, email address, when they joined. Information that we can collect here is, for example, whether they came through a free trial, and if yes, whether they stayed past free trial, like what type of member they are. Right now, right here, this is entered manually. However, if, for example, when somebody joins, this can be captured by the payment processor. When we connect Airtable with the payment processor, even this information can be added automatically, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So the numbers that are so difficult usually to get and look at and use or like make decisions based on are, for example, lifetime value. And here, this would be calculated automatically. Basically, Airtable grabs for you the amount every membership member paid already, and puts it right here. And then at the bottom, this is amazing magical thing that Airtable does. It can calculate or can show you different, wait, let's keep it at average. Make different operations with this number. So for our purpose here, it's average. So we can easily see, quickly see that the lifetime value of our member is $82.22. So this is super useful to look at, kind of make all these different types of projections. And then another number that is very, very important for membership site owners is how long somebody stays a member. So here it's in days. I don't know why this is doesn't count. Oh, because I added extra record by accident. Okay, so the actual average lifetime value is $85.38, and on average they stay for 170 days. And one of the fields I have, they actually allows me to see number of months, I believe. Yeah, no, wait. It will be somewhere. So it doesn't have to be days. You can quickly see the average numbers of days of months somebody stays in the community. So what that allows you to do is, if you know that, for example, like this is, I think 4 months and some change. If they, if the 4-month mark approaches, you know that, okay, like maybe there is like something that I can do and even like automate kind of like some type of outreach to people who are at that critical point so that they don't leave.
Right.
So again, moving to like from like guesses and hunches to using actual data. So this is something that Airtable allows you to do, pretty cool, that allows you to look up some numbers or data or link different tables. So if we were to look at a profile, so to speak, of a membership site member, we would see everything about them, from the name and email address to when they joined, to how many payments they've made, and what testimonials they've left, which is pretty cool. And the rest of the tables is basically supporting this dashboard. So like, this is how we usually approach creating Airtables too. So we start building the master and then look at what type of information we need to have, what type of information can be captured by Airtable directly, and where we need to set up zaps to move information into Airtable. So this is, for example, a payment log. So this is something that we would have access to if we were to connect our Airtable with the payment processor. But then we can play with different views, and again isolate just like certain kind of pieces of data, again to be able to see, okay, in 2019 like this is how much we've made, in 2018 like this is how much we've made, and this is exactly what happened every month. If you layer over this certain marketing activities that happened, or kind of like special outreach, then you can see what marketing activity outperformed something else. So again, being able to make more informed decisions about what do you want to do more of, what actually generates money, and what you can stop doing because it loses you money.
Right.
And then feedback and testimonials. So feedback, again, like this is something that can be, you can create a forum and then collect information from your people. Again, by having this information, you know what works, what doesn't work, how they interact with different pieces of content that you create. Based on this feedback, you can create testimonials, and then you can, like, for example, if it's something written, you can copy paste it here, but then you could alternatively have a column with screenshots. If they say something on social media, you can categorize them either by objections or concerns, or you can select, for example, a medium where you want to use a testimonial, say a sales page or an email address, whether you have permission to use it or not. So again, like the uses are so different. It does depend on what kind of data is important to you, what kind of data you want to track. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming, but it can be pretty eye-opening.
For sure. Yeah. And I love kind of the use in the database table and the payment log of those summary fields. Those are really great. Because instead of having to, sum everything and roll it up in a different table, I think it's really nice to kind of be able to see, those total numbers to help you make decisions. Yeah. But also Airtable makes it so easy to kind of just, see, right? I can see the summary of the data, the average, the sum, or, whatever. And then I can also see all of those individual humans or records or whatever they represent, which is just a really great way where, it, there is that hard data, but then you can also, supplement it with those hunches if you still want, like, oh yeah, this customer, like, they're a weird one, or like, wow, they're like really active with their feedback, and I think also what I love about this is, especially I think for business models, that are sort of membership based, like you were saying, there is that kind of instinct to be like, okay, since we do have these recurring revenue for people, I just want to generate content and get as many new subscribers as possible, right? I'm going to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. But, it's figuring out what sticks is kind of the hard part, right? Unless you actually, kind of are able to see it quantified in some place like this. So I love how kind of just very clean and, kind of organized and segmented it is, and also flexible, like you said. So if I, had a membership site and I really cared about, I don't know how many, videos people watched, and I could get that data, I could plot that in there and, sum up the, figure out the average number of minutes that people watch a month or something like that. So,
yeah. And it makes the life of the team members so much easier as well, because when you work on, when you work with others using the single place where the data is tracked, you can just brainstorm like new ways of doing something. If you have team members responsible for certain aspects, they can track their own numbers and you can see what they are doing. There are so many ways to kind of highlight who's responsible for what and then the results of it. So it is on like all fronts such a useful tool to have it all in one place and like not spend insane amount of time populating it.
For sure. So in terms of SystemsRock, what's kind of on the horizon for you? Are you, super excited about, maybe any new Airtable features you've been playing with, or, a different way you're taking your business? What's next for you?
It is very exciting to work with Airtable, and what we continue kind of just to be amazed by is like how flexible it is, and like every new client that comes in, it's always so much fun just like figuring out all these different ways to do it for them, because different clients like one thing is that they have different type of business and different challenge, but the other thing is that they might have different needs, or they want to have access to different information. My strong belief is that the best systems are like those systems that come from within. Like we already have systems, we just like don't use them, or we don't call them as systems, or like we don't really rely on them as much. We kind of like do everything intuitively. But when we pay closer attention to how we do it and we structure it a bit better, it's amazing how easy it is to create a system that you can simply fall into. It's not something that is difficult to follow. So what really excites me is just giving our clients these tools that allow them to be more productive, but very, very effortlessly.
Right.
And at the same time, now that we've done enough projects where some of it can be templated, allowing to creating like this like different templates and demonstrations, like showing like what is possible. Because I find that the moment that you show somebody what's possible, like all of a sudden they begin experimenting and like running through all the scenarios in their head about just like, oh my god, like I could do this, and like what about that? And it just lights people up. So just like bringing it to more clients and kind of experimenting with ways to ease them into having systems.
Right.
That's something I get like super passionate about.
For sure. And like you said, right, everyone just says this buzzword systems, and it's like, what does that even mean? You just know you need a good one. You don't really even know what a good one would be. So yeah, it's like kind of getting people in that mindset. And I think just showing, even, stuff like your dashboard, it does get people's minds churning, and they get all excited. And yeah, it's really fun to kind of, feel like you're in kind of, an experiment together, right? And you're just not like, okay, well, I made this thing, like, you're going to just use it the way that I think you should use it. It is more of a collaboration with Airtable, which is really cool.
Yep, absolutely.
So tell all of our listeners where they can find you online if they want to contact you or check out more of your work.
Sure. The best place to find me is my website, SystemsRock.com. And if you want to get in touch, it's SystemsRock.com/connect. So if you've been playing with Airtable, if you want to share with me any setups that you've created, I always love to geek out about different scenarios and different ways to creatively use Airtable. I'll welcome your email. So awesome. Do get in touch.
Cool. We will definitely put your website in the show notes so people can check it out and send you a message if they'd like. Well, thank you so much, Natasha. It's been quite a pleasure chatting with you and about your sort of weird meta backwards fall into systems and how you're using Airtable to, you know, organize data and make systems, you know, unscary for people.
Thank you, Zoe. It's a pleasure. And yes, absolutely. Let's make systems accessible. One Airtable at a time.
There you go. All right. See ya.